Hi everyone, and welcome to the Kathy Reiswitz Show. I am Kathy Reiswitz, and today I am joined by Tory Royal. She is going to talk with me today about which mainstream media publications and outlets libertarians should pay attention to, which they should ignore, and why. Tory, thank you so much for coming on today.
It's my pleasure. I'm so happy to have this opportunity to talk to Kathy.
So tell me, how did you get involved in this topic?
I'm a journalism student. I go to USF. I'm the campus coordinator for Students for Liberty there, and I'm actually double majoring in journalism for print and philosophy. So obviously, learning more about it, learning about the rules, the regulations. It's really eye-opening and sometimes a little scary. The FCC is totally out of control, but I grew up in a very Republican household. My mother worked in the Reagan White House, and they love Bill O'Reilly. His books are all over the house, so I've got a lot to say about that.
No doubt. Speaking of the mainstream media, I guess you're a little old probably for Bill O'Reilly's Liberty for Kids books?
I read the original Bill O'Reilly, the Factor for Kids. I did read that. There was like an index in the back of all like the text messaging slang that he used, and it was like these like acronyms like 20 letters long that I was like 9 years old like flipping like I have to learn how to be cool from Bill O'Reilly.
Oh God, and that is what's wrong with the GOP in one little anecdote. Congratulations for coming through that and arriving at Liberty somehow. Yeah, so you're studying journalism and you have some thoughts, I guess, from a liberty perspective. I know that the mainstream media can be a little bit hostile to liberty-friendly ideas. That's why we started Young Voices, to try to get liberty ideas published in the mainstream media. So what are your thoughts?
I specifically, what comes to mind is our dear friend Glenn Beck. He was, I don't think he's on Fox anymore. I don't know, I've moved out and since haven't been exposed to Fox News like I was before. But I remember him talking about Ron Paul and how his like followers were terrorists, like a threat to the government, and that he had to be stopped. And suddenly, in the last year or so, he's come out as like this like darling for liberty. And you know, he says he's learning. I forget, Bonnie Christian wrote an article about, you know, him coming over to the liberty side. For anyone who doesn't know Bonnie, she's hipster libertarian, and she has her website, and then she has hipster libertarian at Tumblr. If anyone's interested in getting a more, I don't want to say it's biased because that implies it's a negative spin, but she looks at it very unbiased, very clear. Let's like see what we're going here and what it means for the liberty movement, things that happen.
She definitely has her own perspective, and it's interesting. In addition, I think she's doing comms for YAL, and then she's actually got a book coming out about liberty and Christianity, so that'll be really fascinating.
Yeah, I've followed her for a long time. Before I was really invested in what she was saying, I was just like, well, that's interesting. You know, I was like in high school on the internet, like.
Same here, but like graduated college on the internet reading her. And then I actually got to sit on a panel with her about women and liberty, also with Julie Borowski, my first year in DC. So that was fun.
That's awesome. I'm on my way, hopefully.
Good.
But yeah, he really, I think he and Bill O'Reilly both really exemplify the sort of cult of personality that's kind of taken over contemporary journalism. It used to be like anchors like Walter Cronkite and Ernie Pyle were like these like authorities on what was going on. They spoke from on high, from this really like, you know, from a authoritarian point almost. And I think Americans who weren't used to having televisions or radios or, you know, news that quickly. It was a new thing still, so it was like, yeah, let's listen to the guy writing the newspaper. And I mean, that was the years of yellow journalism with, you know, Hearst and Pulitzer. But I think it's
Your point about personality is really, really interesting. I mean, you don't just see it with broadcast. You see it, I mean, it's because I feel like it's always been that way with broadcast, but you're seeing it with so-called print as well, where you've got Ezra Klein and Andrew Sullivan and even, Ta-Nehisi Coates and there's a Jamel Bowie, they're names in and of themselves, which are in many cases much more important than the publications that they happen to be writing for. And I think that's just to me it makes sense, because what you see in marketing products is that people don't emotionally connect with brands, they emotionally connect with personalities, and so the successful brands develop those personalities, and people want to feel like they, are trusting of and connecting with the sources of their news and commentary.
That reminds me of like Chick-fil-A and Hobby Lobby, like these corporations becoming people almost with values and religious persuasions. I think that while trusting the news source, and it's like, I see Anderson Cooper's face and I just want to like hug him and like sit in his lap and have him tell me like stories, but it's also so dangerous because you stop questioning the legitimacy, the validity of what exactly they're saying. You stop questioning their underlying motives for what they're doing. I mean, Anderson Cooper he worked in Somalia and across Africa and some other places, I think Sri Lanka, and he obviously has a passion for the industry and for what he does, and I feel like Bill O'Reilly just kind of graduated college and started yakking away. So
I think there's definitely a danger there, but I also think it's unavoidable.
You're right. So it's kind of like, for example, on our team, Bonnie, she's so lovely, and I think that she's very honest, and especially with the blog. I mean, she updates regularly, and she lets her personality out, but it isn't in so much as like not an authoritative way, not in a I know what's best. It's more like here I am, a young woman who is she's Christian, right? If she's writing this book. See, that's not something that interests me, so I'm not super knowledgeable about that. I'm sure you could probably tell us more. But she's making this sort of news and liberty accessible to other people by being herself, which is adorable. Like, she's just the cutest thing I've ever seen. So I think
she's cute. And then on the other side of it, you have personalities like Stefan Molyneux, who is also in the liberty spectrum, and I don't find his personality particularly compelling, but a lot of people do. It's been described.
I think a lot of men do.
Not just men, but a certain kind of man. And it's interesting, and the danger there is obviously, I'm meeting a lot of people in the liberty movement whose only conception of feminism and their only information about feminism is from someone who has some pretty clear and obvious mommy issues that they're working through publicly, and so it creates a real information asymmetry when you
getting your information on ideology or just an idea from one source is always a bad idea. I think we've established that. Critical thinking 101. Get more than one source, especially, I mean, as journalists, you want at least 2 or 3 sources per article, ideally more. And I wish that, I've noticed that this is a big theme in all of your podcasts, and I kind of wanted to do something different because we talk about sex and feminism and slut shaming and things like that, which is so important. But I know a lot of people who aren't a big fan of that get tired of us talking about it, and so I kind of wanted to. But I mean, patriarchy oozes into literally every facet of modern life, so I suppose this is the inevitable. Reaching out to that man. God bless whoever takes him on and helps him, because he has a serious following, and I think that anybody who has a serious following has a responsibility to be truthful and honest and not malicious in your message. I think that that's so important to remember. And I don't think that that level of self-awareness is present in his persona, which is unfortunate because he's such a big voice.
Possibly not. You know, I don't know, but I will say, getting back to kind of the topic at hand, libertarians understand that if a liberal or a conservative's only conception of libertarianism comes from salon.com, they're clearly not getting a very accurate, certainly not a nuanced perspective on the pros and cons of the liberty movement. And so it's just really problematic. You know, if all you're reading about libertarianism comes from Salon, you're clearly in the dark. And
like if everything you're reading about feminism comes from Jezebel, it's because it's while I do follow it and I love some of the writers there, I think it is very inflammatory. And
sure, absolutely. Yeah. And it's, you know, it's been until recently pretty hostile to markets as well. But we are infiltrating Jezebel. We just got the Libertarian published in that website, so that was super exciting.
Yeah, she Belle Knox just published an article in there. Are you talking about someone else or just her?
No, as far as I know, just her. But
okay.
There are probably others.
Right. We should get someone on that. Writing some articles for them. But I think that Jezebel is very personality heavy, and I worked for my school paper briefly because I felt that at my school, USF, our free speech policy is horrendous, and I've actually been working with David Dearson. I can't remember his last name. Yeah, I think he's been reaching out to me, and we're gonna talk about what I can do with the group there to work on that. But I find that the presence of personality when you are news reporting, I find it so annoying, and I found it incredibly difficult to like put my personality into a news story when it's like, I'm completely removed from this. I want the students to know what's going on, and that's it. Like, why do I need to make a story out of it? They were like, well, what's the angle? I'm like, there's no angle. I'm straight talking here. I don't want to like imply that there's something going on with like the Tri-Delts car wash. Like, I'm not interested in that.
I have mixed feelings on that. I mean, I definitely see the utility of straight reporting. At the same time, I guess as a marketer, I have serious doubts about, you know, there's always a why. There's a reason you're covering this, and if there's not, you should probably cover something interesting enough to elicit a feeling in you.
I mean, it's Tri-Delts in bikinis. Like, everyone's gonna pick up a copy of that newspaper.
and if that's it, if you're just writing it, you know, to get pickups, then say that. Like, fuck this shit. I shouldn't have to write about bikinis to get my stuff read. You know, something.
Yeah.
But the idea that you know, of objectivity, I don't. To me, it's intellectually insulting. It's like, no one's objective. Let's just be real about where we're coming from, and you know what our motivations are and what we want to see accomplished. Let's just be real about it. And people clearly like it. People like it when they feel like people are being real and honest.
And again, I think that's. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, you know, there are drawbacks to that, as we've discussed, but
I mean, but that's why these personalities, these talking heads, draw such a large audience, because people, even if it's like a car accident, you can't peel your eyes away, you know.
Yeah.
And they are magnetic people, and I mean, Hitler had great charisma, you know, and it's basically that all over again. And I guess I just don't have that. That's why I don't write for our newspaper anymore. I couldn't find the angle. I don't know. I think that in some formats, I mean, it's a useful marketing tool. Obviously, you wanna get your information out. You're obviously doing a great job with it. But I think when we're talking about, you know, a situation that requires, you know, both candor and like respect for the situation, whether it's, you know, a school shooting or, you know, drone strikes at a different school, you know, halfway across the world, I think that there needs to be a certain sort of, you know, a due diligence to the gravity of the situation, where I think that sometimes the personalities get in the way. They talk too soon. They speak too soon. I know Bill O'Reilly made some accusations that Red Cross was like embezzling funds right after 9/11, and it severely impacted the donations that they were receiving. And it was like, use your power for good, not evil.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pressure to be fast, make and get attention, and you know, mistakes are made.
Twitter is so great for getting information out, and the information gets out, even if it isn't great information.
Absolutely. I mean, just with the World Cup, you know, there are these old photos being posted as new photos of riots that weren't happening, and
they're making it about the sport game when it's about living conditions and infrastructure and, you know, where are taxes going? Why is our government doing this to us?
Exactly. So, what are libertarians to do?
Oh, gosh. Run.
For office?
Yeah, that. And my favorite is always going to be Al Jazeera. Excuse me. He's just, I think he's a straight talking kind of guy, and I love his
Al Jazeera?
Yeah, Al Jazeera.
Is it a guy?
I'm sorry?
There's a particular guy?
Yeah. The whole everything.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's very, I like their perspective, not from a Western point of view. You know what I mean? I have their app on my phone, and I look at it every day, and I know it's going to, I mean, obviously there's always going to be a bias. Actually, there was a podcast I wanted to link you to. I don't know if we can make it available. It was by the people who did Freakonomics. It's called How Biased Is Your Media? And it basically shows that Fox is on the same scale, like towards the right, as MSNBC is towards the left, CNN is a little bit more in the middle, Wall Street Journal it's like on a scale of 0 to 100, 100 being super liberal, 0 being super conservative. And if you want to post the link in the description, you can do that if anyone's interested. There's an article attached, and I think that's useful for libertarians to decide, you know, what's more important to you. If you're kind of like a, you know, religious freedom, sort of, you know, more leaning towards civil rights for older people, maybe you want to look more at Fox. If you're more interested in like the feminist agenda or, you know, gay rights, you might want to look at CNN. I think we should pay attention to the major news outlets because we want to know what's going on. We want to know what's going out to the people. And it gives us an idea where we need to start investigating, I think.
Absolutely. So in our last few minutes, Tory, where can people find your work?
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, well, I'm on Facebook. I don't write too much. I should really start doing that. I mostly write for myself. I have a private blog which I'm not going to advertise. Some people already follow me on there, but maybe I should start doing that. I do have a WordPress. It's troyroyal.wordpress.com. You can find me there. You can find me at bravenewyogi.wordpress.com. There's nothing to do with liberty. I'm a yoga instructor, so I write about that.
Very nice. That's the only way to keep calm in this crazy media landscape.
Shameless self-promotion.
That's what you go on these for. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Tory, and thank you guys so much for watching. New shows every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Please like, comment, share, subscribe.